The year was 1986, and at that time I was a graphic designer. I was actually a graphic designer for 30 years, and I was really, really impressed with Ron Volstad's work. He inspired me so much with the Squadron books and then the Osprey books. I was just couldn't get enough of it, and I wrote him a letter. Somehow I found his address in a publication of some sort, and I wrote him a letter, and he actually wrote back. And this was like amazing to me, and I was so inspired more and more, and it really, really got me even more into the hobby, to the point I was trying to do illustrations, and I did some illustrations and I don't have anymore, and they were okay, not his level, but I didn't do it as often. So I built this piece, and I dedicated it to him on Facebook. And anyhow, and it's one of those pieces where I end up buying DML Dragon figures for the box art, because 90% of the figures are usually not usable, and I end up using them for parts or conversions. But sometimes I find some that I'm like, I gotta recreate this scene, and this is one of them. So let's get at how I did it. Well, as you've seen in other of my projects, I use a plastic cube, 3.5 by 3.5, on a lot of my small scenes. This size was perfect for what I wanted to do with the Dragon set. I've carved out the cube and stuffed it with styrofoam. Next, I put a thin layer of Magic Sculpey putty, 2-part putty, on, and textured it with a toothbrush. I didn't have to put it on very thick because the snow was going to cover this up. So it was mainly just to get the soldiers' feet into the putty before it dried, and so I could make this stick fence, which you see a lot in Russian photos in World War II, these stick fences, which I just got some twigs from outdoors, cut them to size to match as best I could to the box art, and then put them on and glued them together. I try to get as close to the box art as possible, but you know, it's a hobby, and I get as close as I can with the best references I have available. And here you can see the figures built up and put in place. As I said, I pressed them into the Sculpey so their feet had a position. Next, here's another angle. I tried to get everything as close to the box art as possible. I wanted everything to really look like the box art in a photo. I've started to paint the figures here. As you can see it in place, I used all acrylic paints, and I did some mixing of the colors from dark to light, and then blended those as best I could. I was actually learning more and more about acrylics at this time, how to blend them, because I had always used artist oils in the past, and I've just wanted to convert to all acrylics as much as possible. Here's my mixture for the snow: baking soda, white glue, Elmer's glue, and water in a jar, mixed up appropriately till I have like a paste, a thick paste. And then this thick paste is spread over the base with a brush. I put it fairly thick, except for kind of around where their feet were gonna go. I left that fairly thin, so that way they could be placed back into the scene. And here you can see the mixture on, still wet. And as it dries, it turns out really nice and looks like snow. So it's highly effective, I think, and I like using it. It's simple. Well, here's the artwork from the box that Ron Volstad did. And I buy like I said, I buy the figures for the artwork most of the time. I'm a sucker for it, and I've got to restrain. But here's the final piece, finished, and I was really pleased with it. In fact, I put it on Ron Volstad's wall on Facebook, and he thought it was pretty cool, and that was enough for me. So really enjoyed this project. Once in a while I can paint more than one figure. It's not easy for me. I like just painting one figure because I can concentrate on it so much. It's hard being a figure painter and a modeler. And the next little scene bonus here is another Ron Volstad artwork piece that I really enjoyed. And this one is from Normandy, and I don't know if you could tell from those last photos, but it's the 16th Luftwaffe Field Division in Normandy. I really like the way this had always looked. So I said, I did the other one, let's do this one. Once again, it's a 3.5 by 3.5 clear cube for the base, sheet plastic for the walls of the building, and then just strip plastic for the roof. Simple roof. Made up some gutters, and here you can see the magic sculpt applied to the side. Fairly thin layer. Keep it a little bit rough, not perfectly flat, so that way it has some texture. It looks like stonework. And then I carve in the stones, and after that they're carved, I press in a toothbrush, so that way it gives it the texture and helps make the stones look more correct. The whole scene here is ready to go. As I said, the gutter and downspouts, the downspouts just sprue from a kit, sprue tree. Figures are prime black. The scene was prime black, and then I was go back over everything with an airbrush for the scenery, grass, building, paint it with artist oils after a base coat of acrylics over it. And here you go with the final scene. The figures were also painted in acrylics. I probably would have liked the camouflage uniforms to look a little better, but they turned out convincing enough. I was pretty happy with them. The flowers I found at a craft store for miniatures, and I thought I'd add them in there. Since it was summertime in Normandy, I'm sure there was flowers. And I just love the position of all these guys and the way they look like they would actually work in a scene, a coherent type scene. And that's the end of this step-by-step video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more content.